Okay, so Major League Baseball do not do a lot of videos on this league, but I'm looking at, in this video, the history of the player strikes and lockouts. I'm not going to go massively into depth into the reasons behind all the player strikes, but it is very striking that between 72 and 95 there are 7 strikes and 1 lockout, and a lot of games lost and a lot of revenue for the league lost, and constant issues with the CBA. Owners colluding with each other in this period, massive amounts of money being lost and misspent. And then since 95, we've obviously had the steroid scandal, the Astros stealing scandal with the World Series. There's been a few other scandals since then, and we nearly came close to a player strike or lockout last season with the return to play from COVID. Players and league were arguing about how many games should be played in the return to play and how much salary had to be deferred. And there's another little tidbit I'll get to at the end of the video, which is very unique amongst Major League Baseball in comparison to the other major leagues in North America. But to start this tale of industrial woe, we have to go back to 1968 when the CBA is first agreed between the league and the players. Very similar to the NHL, the NHLPA and the collective bargaining agreement that the NHL has also was agreed at a similar time. So 2 of the major leagues were agreeing their CBAs at the similar time. However, the NHL avoided any player unrest, really, until the early 90s, whereas Major League Baseball only takes 4 years for the first strike in 1972, which lasted between April the 1st and April the 13th, and resulted in 86 games being lost. Following that strike, the following year in 73, there's a strike, which resulted in no games being lost, and is not a massive... It's part of the tale, but it's not as big as some of the incidents that follow later on. For 3 years... From 73 till 76, there's labour peace. Until 76, there's another strike. Again, no games are lost, and it is not a massive strike, but again, the players are clearly showing there is unrest there. They're unhappy with their situation. They're unhappy with the CBA not being fully enforced. But again, no games are lost. We go 4 more years until 1980, until the next strike. Again, no games are lost. So it's not the end of the world, but again, the players are starting to put their foot down and say, look, we're unhappy with a variety of issues within the league, from trading cards to salary retention to a whole range of issues. It reaches a head in 1981 between June 12th and August 9th, where 713 games are wiped off the season. That's 38% of that year's schedule gone. That is a lot of money the owners have lost. That is a lot of money the players have lost. That is a lot of money that the stadiums have lost in gate receipts. TV revenue gone. Sponsorship. Now, the agreement to return to play happened in July, but they weren't ready to play until August 9th. That is a lengthy period of what was quite embarrassing for Major League Baseball, quite frankly. But it was a lengthy period without any games being played. But bearing in mind, at this time, Major League Baseball is the major summer league. The other major leagues all play in winter, so they're not losing fans to other sports. That is going to change in the future, which may have a bearing on why there hasn't been any labour unrest since 1995, and I'll get to that. There's peace for 4 more years. So 4 more years, there's no further strikes until 1985. A 2-day strike occurs between August 6th and 7th, and games are rescheduled. The season is not overly impacted, and no games are lost. But then we get to the 1990 lockout that wipes out pre-season and delayed the start of the season, which led to the season being extended by 3 days. Now, pre-season games also bring revenue for the league. They do bring revenue to the league. Obviously not full packed-out stadiums, but the league makes some money out of that. The players make some money, and minor league players get called up and get some, Major League Baseball experience. The season was extended by 3 days to fit in the reformatted schedule, so no games were technically lost, but there was a lockout. This is where the owners are saying, okay, we'll lock you out then. Meet our demands. So the owners are pushing back against the players for the 6 previous strikes. But things are clearly brewing. Things are not well at this point. But we go 4 more years, and this is where the most damaging strike happens. Between 1994 and 1995, 232 days of strike action wipes out the World Series and the end of the 94 season, and reduced the 95 season to 144 regular season games. That's like 20 plus regular season games per team wiped off. That is a lot of money, and the World Series is obviously the holy grail of baseball. It's their big money maker. To lose that massively impacts the owners, massively impacts the league, and massively impacts any TV deals that you wish to negotiate with the broadcasters. Baseball is a very popular sport in the US. It's also popular in other countries around the world, such as Japan, Korea, Latin America, the Philippines. There is actually quite a big global audience for baseball, and to have a strike that wipes out your World Series really damages your brand, not only domestically but overseas. What is also interesting is in 1994, Major League Soccer, the World Cup happens in 94, and in 96, Major League Soccer has its inaugural season. So now Major League Baseball has a summer sport that is now classed as a major league. It's the fifth major league now to compete for that audience attention and revenue from fans. So now, yes, Major League Baseball has to compete against another league. So it's very noticeable there is no further strikes or lockouts since 1995. What is also interesting is since 1995, we've had the steroid scandal. There were reports going around of investigative journalists looking at the use of steroids within the game. This all breaks in the late 90s, so 20 odd years ago, so well after the 95 strike. But what is very, very damaging is I don't think baseball has fully recovered from that scandal. It has not fully recovered. At the same time, we haven't seen the labour unrest that went before, between 72 and 95. That's a 23-year period of carnage, 7 strikes and a lockout. I don't think any other major league has had that much labour unrest. I know the NFL has had some problems, and the NBA's had problems, and the NHL's had problems, but not on the same level as Major League Baseball. What is also very interesting is Major League Soccer has a salary cap, okay? And I would say it's the rival league for the summer, fan base, the summer fans. It's the summer leagues. It competes for the same TV share market and fan market share that Major League Baseball does. Now, Major League Baseball obviously far more established, far more wealthy, but Major League Soccer is growing and expanding rapidly. So if Major League Baseball was to have further labour unrest, it could massively impact the league going forward. It's the only major league in North America not to have a salary cap. A form of luxury tax is imposed if teams go over a certain salary threshold, but there's no salary cap. I'm not so sure how long this can continue, considering with what's happened with the pandemic, and considering that last year there were concerns that we may be facing a lockout or player strike in regards to the players wanting to play a certain amount of games, the league wanting to fixture a certain amount of games, and it got pretty tense. There was a disagreement about how many games should be played, how much retention of salary should be handed over by players. How much of a salary cut or escrow should be invoked. We had this with the NHL as well, and they tweaked their collective bargaining agreement and extended their CBA. But it is very interesting that Major League Baseball remains the only major league in North America with no salary cap. That is really surprising to me. The other major leagues in the NHL, the NBA, the NFL, Major League Soccer all have some form of hard, soft, or flexible cap in place. Whereas Major League Baseball, with all its history between 72 and 95 of player unrest and ownership going, okay, we'll lock you out and we'll, delay the season then, and losing a World Series, their big money maker, I am surprised. But it's also very interesting that since Major League Soccer has come along in 1996, there has been no further labour unrest between the players, the league, and the union. None. Really surprising. I don't think Major League Baseball can risk that. I really don't. And the scandal since '95, especially the steroid scandal, has really damaged the image of the sport, the branding, and it's still recovering from that, I believe. But it's very interesting that 7 strikes and a lockout in the best part of 23 years. It was almost every 3 years there was, on average, nearly every 3 years on average, there was some form of labour unrest. And the fact that so many games have been wiped off and another season was reduced in length massively affects revenue streams. So it's interesting. The fact that the CBA is constantly amended is interesting, but no salary cap. I can't see how much longer Major League Baseball can go without a salary cap in comparison to the other major league sports. And also the TV deal was more regional with Major League Baseball, with regional broadcasters in the sports markets rather than a national broadcaster. So the TV deal as well. So there's a lot of interesting subplots to Major League Baseball, which is interesting. But anyway, I'm going to leave that there. Place your thoughts below, and I'll have some more videos for you very, very soon.